How's it guys, Munash here, and today we have Corvus Glaive against Abyss of Legends Masacre. So this will probably be the last fight I cover for Abyss Part 4. I'll probably just do one more collector fight with Aegon, and even though I've already uploaded that fight from other paths, I haven't made one with commentary and I feel like I need to. But yeah, back to Masacre. His Abyssal ability will basically give him indestructibility when he isn't blocking. So basically you can only do damage while he's blocking. So if that was all there is to it, this fight would be absolutely horrible. However, when you do actually hit him, you're going to apply a fracture charge, which is sort of like an armor break, except it works on block proficiency instead of armor. So each hit will reduce it by 400 and eventually it will actually reverse the block proficiency. Kind of like how Petrify can reverse healing. And when you do hit his block, you'll also have plus 100% attack. So Corvus being able to crit through block makes him a really good counter for this fight. So I go in and the first thing I want to do is just build up those fracture charges by hitting him. So you notice that I'm not doing that much damage through his block right now, although it is pretty decent. It's still roughly about the same amount of damage I would do if I were to just do normal hits, if he wasn't indestructible. But you'll see that very quickly, once we've built about 10 of those charges, I'm doing a very good amount of damage just by hitting him through the block. So this fight does require quite a bit of dancing around because you do want to bait block, and with Corvus, ideally you do want to avoid striking his block when you run out of your glaive charges. And also with that brute force type of mechanic, you do want to hit him every 8 seconds just so you don't lose too many warfare or skirmish charges. But also you want to keep a good tempo for this fight, don't be too passive because you really don't want to get cornered. Because then, you end up parrying more than you should, and Masacre's got some very high block penetration with these bats. And also the other part of his abyssal ability I forgot to mention is that when you are blocking, he's going to play a lot more aggressively. And that heavy attack can be pretty annoying to evade when you're in a corner. And also that special too can be very unforgiving. But otherwise the fight really isn't that difficult with Corvus, and I didn't just bring him for this fight. The main reason I brought him was for Killmonger. But I also brought him knowing that I was going to use him for this fight because he works pretty well with these guaranteed crits through the block. And even though Aegon would be a better counter for this fight, just because he can hit harder, also crits through block, more damage, and he doesn't have to worry about glaive charges expiring. But the thing is, if Aegon is fully ramped up, then he won't be as effective for this fight since you will have the unblockable active. And I remember when I first planned to do this fight on part 5, which was the second part I did initially plan to use Aegon for it, but I just had a difficult time not ramping him up. I didn't have Nick Fury or Doctor Doom, so I had to rely on Aegon for a lot more fights. But fortunately I also had Stealth Suit Spider-Man, who was pretty decent for this fight. So really you can do this fight with any champ. Ideally you want to use a champ who can hit pretty hard and doesn't rely on damage over time or special attacks. You would want to use someone with solid raw damage from medium and light attacks. But you'll notice that you don't actually have to hit him while he's blocking to do damage. As long as he's blocking, he will deal damage. It's just easier to do damage by hitting him while he's blocking because he keeps on blocking while you're hitting him. If that makes sense. So when you have a special 3 ready, you can actually drop a full combo and then end it with the special 3. And because you threw the special while he was blocking, it will actually do damage. Okay, so now I didn't exactly have the best strategy for this fight, and I only realized after watching the gameplay just after doing it. What I should have done is try to avoid hitting his block until I've applied 99 of those fracture charges, because your blocked hits also count towards the Abyss hit cap, and there is a massive difference in damage between having 10 to 40 of those charges compared to having at least 60 to 99 of them. So yeah, I think if I did that first before starting to deal any real damage, I could have gotten this fight down quite comfortably in 1 revive, instead of the 2 that I used. Because in the first fight I got him down to 56%, which is still pretty good. It's about 2.5 million damage. But it could have been better. It could have been much better. But I really just wasn't too focused on that, especially towards the end of this path, because I was just really excited to get it done instead of perfectly optimizing my item use, because I was already having a pretty good path. I'm not sure if I even started using units at this point, because I had a decent stash, and I think it took me about 40 revives to get to the collector. so I really wasn't too fussed about it. And if I were to redo part 4, I probably wouldn't bring Corvus this time. I would much rather have Magneto in the team, because the main reason I brought Corvus was just to have an easier time on Killmonger and then Masacre later on. And there are 2 Killmongers on part 4, but now Magneto can solo Killmonger, and I've already made a video on that. And he's also the best counter for Abyss Korg. I'm not sure if he can solo, but he can do it in 1 revive quite comfortably. And then I could have just used Nick Fury for this Masacre. But this was a couple of months ago, Magneto wasn't buffed yet, so I really have no regrets bringing Corvus. He did really well for the 3 fights I used him for, and this is a very bare bones Corvus as well. I'm not running any boosts or suicides, I only have 2 missions. I actually got to pick up the 3rd against Gladiator Hulk. I'm not sure how big of a difference that would have made, but in terms of item use, I probably still would have used 2 revives. But yeah, you can see now that Masacre has 99 of those fracture charges, Corvus is hitting hella hard through the block with these guaranteed crits. So if you first build all those charges and then start critting him through the block, this fight can be quite fun and cheap in terms of item use. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys found it interesting, and for more Abyss videos, do check out my Abyss playlist. I think I have close to 100 videos there now. Various fights from all the different parts. Some of the fights are the same, but I use a different champ, or maybe the same champ with a different strategy, or just the gameplay is more refined. And sometimes I'll just be testing different champs on the early fights on each path. I might not necessarily use them to complete the path, but they might work as an alternative for certain fights. And I just like comparing and testing certain champs because it also helps my knowledge and put out a better guide, because at least then I'll have some practical experience instead of just theorizing. But yeah, that's all I have to say for this one. Thank you for watching, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon.